My parents left the family home I take care of to my incompetent brother because they like him more. He flooded it within a week. I've lived 10 minutes from my parents my entire adult life, while my brother Corbin moved to Seattle after college and never looked back, but somehow he's always been the favorite. I started helping with the house when I was 25, right after Dad's first back surgery. Small things at first, like mowing the lawn and cleaning the gutters. Then it became bigger things like coordinating the roof replacement, dealing with the flooded basement at midnight, replacing the water heater in February when it died without warning. I was there every week, sometimes multiple times a week, for 20 years. Corbin flew in twice a year for Thanksgiving and Mom's birthday. When he walked through the door, Mom would cry happy tears and Dad would clap him on the back like a war hero returning home. When I showed up to fix the furnace in a snowstorm, Mom didn't even look up from the TV. She just said, "It's been making that noise for 3 days." I handled their finances, their medical appointments, their prescriptions, their taxes. Corbin called once a month if they were lucky, and my parents talked about that single phone call for days afterward. Corbin is doing so well. Corbin got promoted. Corbin might visit in the spring. The house is a 1920s colonial, and it needs constant maintenance. But after 20 years, I knew every pipe, every wire, every creak in the floorboards. I'd spent thousands of my own money on repairs when their budget was tight, and I never told them and never asked for it back. When Dad got sick, really sick, I was there every single day for 6 months. I rearranged my work schedule, used all my vacation time, held his hand during chemo. Corbin flew in for one long weekend, and Dad told everyone who would listen that Corbin had dropped everything to be there. Dad died in October, and at the funeral, everyone hugged Corbin and told him how hard this must be for him. Nobody asked how I was doing. 3 months later, Mom called a family meeting at the house. She said she was updating her will and wanted to be transparent about her decisions. The house would go to Corbin because he'd want to raise his children in a real family home someday. I would get the china and some savings bonds. I sat there in the living room I'd repainted twice and said, "I've been maintaining this house for 20 years. Mom patted my hand and said, "And we appreciate that, honey. But Corbin needs roots. You already have your own place." Corbin nodded solemnly like he was being handed a burden instead of a $600,000 house. I drove home and didn't cry until I was inside with the door locked behind me. The next week, the porch light burned out. I didn't replace it. A month later, Mom mentioned the gutters were getting clogged, and I said, "Corbin should probably learn how to handle that since it'll be his house." She laughed like I was joking, but I wasn't joking. I stopped everything. The yard, the repairs, the bills I'd been quietly managing for years, all of it. I still visited Mom every Sunday, but I didn't lift a finger on that house. Within 3 months, the lawn was overgrown, the dryer stopped working, and a pipe started leaking under the kitchen sink. Mom called Corbin for help, and he sent money for a handyman. But the handyman didn't know the quirks of the house and did things wrong and charged triple what it would have cost me. The repair bills started piling up because things I used to fix for free now cost hundreds of dollars. Then the basement flooded again, and nobody caught it for 3 days because I wasn't there checking on things like I always had been. Corbin flew in, and he was completely overwhelmed. He didn't know where the water shutoff was, or which contractors were reliable, or how to tell if someone was ripping him off. He called me and asked if I could help just this once. I said, "It's not my house. I'm just the sister with the china." Mom called me crying and said the house was falling apart and she didn't understand what was happening. I said gently, "I was what was holding it together, Mom, for 20 years. You just never noticed." Corbin called me the next day, furious, accusing me of abandoning our mother in her time of need. I said, "I spent 20 years keeping that house standing while you visited twice a year with flowers. Now it's yours. Figure it out." He said, "I can't manage a house from Seattle." I said, "Then I guess you'd better move." He didn't move. 6 months later, he convinced Mom to sell the house because he couldn't handle it from across the country, and the repairs were bleeding money. They got $150,000 less than it would have been worth if I'd kept maintaining it. Corbin split the sale money with me and never once acknowledged that I was the reason the house had been worth anything in the first place. Mom lives in assisted living now, and I visit every Sunday. Last week, she held my hand and said, "I don't know what I'd do without you."